Hi, I'm Paxi. I play Nullscape. It's a really good game. I like this game a lot. I don't like Flash. That's the intro. I guess in simplest forms, we should start by discussing what Flash actually does in Nullscape. Flash is an enemy that can show up in your enemy voting by level 5, stacking up to 2 total stacks. Flash will aggro on the nearest player during gameplay, slowly chasing towards them. Any tiles that a Flesh passes while chasing will get fleshed, and any players who step in these inflected tiles will get the debuff. The debuff in question disables all abilities and slows down the player greatly. It's to note that the only counters to this debuff are ringing a bell or activating the Panic Necklace upgrade by losing all of your shields, which we'll get back to later. So, now that we know what Flesh actually does, let me explain why this enemy sucks, dude. I think a main issue I have with Flesh as an enemy is how much it just goes against Nullscape and all of the gameplay philosophies it's built on itself over these updates it's had. Nullscape, at its core, is an extremely fast-paced, overwhelming as hell game. There's no better way to put it. It pressures you to take action on issues as soon as physically possible. Your main focus at all times should be collecting gifts and to leave the current level. And most enemies build upon this. They apply constant pressure on you, forcing you to take action. Baby, Sigil, Husks, they all apply pressure on you that pushes you to leave the current level quicker. There are some enemies that try to break your flow, sure. Some examples being Operator and its Voidbound variant, Telefragger, Cadence, and our main hand, Flesh. But the other enemies there halt you in a way that you can still reasonably collect around them. They don't force you to actively lose out on crucial game mechanics just to counter them. There's ways to get around them utilizing your moveset, and they're all extremely fun enemies. If a Telefragger's about to get somewhere in front of you, if you have time and space to, you can redirect him by turning to face somewhere else for a moment. If you don't have time to do that, you can drag him away by just utilizing the fact he chases you, and immediately pick those gifts. Or you can just dodge him altogether using Shark Tail. Operator puts a brake on your speed and keeps you on your toes. It stops you from getting far too reckless with your momentum in a way that feels fair. It makes you think about your actions. Flesh, on the other hand, it just straight up forces you to either lose both speed and your ability, or wait for that grueling infected tile to turn back to normal. Either way, you're missing crucial aspects of the game. Nobody likes to wait, especially not in Nullscape. But not many people are going to be willing to throw themselves into a sea of flesh just to collect a few stray gifts either. Now, I did mention 2 counters to Flesh earlier, Panic Necklace and Bell. The issues with these is, well, kinda obvious, no? Purposefully using Panic Necklace is only really viable at the end of a level due to the fact that it means you need to burn through your shield or shields to activate it, leaving you very vulnerable to death under the pressure of one misinput. The other option, Bell, is just extremely unreliable. Bell might not spawn onto you at all during Flesh, especially in something like Party Plus. It might leave right as you go to ring it, especially bad if you have more ringing. Or it could simply just be too risky to utilize the Bell to begin with, especially if you have something like Concussion. It could throw you into somewhere really unpredictable or bad, leave you stranded without a jump, and there's just not many good ways to go around utilizing it sometimes. So its only 2 counters are extremely unreliable and dangerous, which just isn't worth the risk to take sometimes. I guess there is also a third way to counter Flesh that I forgot to actually write in the script, because I guess you could play Wanted, because Wanted is hardly affected by Flesh, but like, who the is playing a class to counter one enemy? And if you are, that just shows how bad Flesh is. So, Flesh causes you to wait and has no formal counters. So what, I hear you asking? Can't be as bad as some other enemies, like Sigil exists, Husk has awful curses, whatever. Well, of the 3 biomes in Nullscape, one makes Flesh triumph over any other enemy, any other curse, and any other threat that you can physically encounter in this game. High-rise tiles. Flesh is so painfully unfun to deal with on high-rise tiles. What are you even meant to do at that point? It infects entire portions of the tower at once with no counterplay outside of just waiting for it. A lot! waiting to bring Flesh away from the high-rise tile, waiting for it to uninfect, and it's even worse when paired with other enemies. If you have other stuff pulling you away from the high-rise, like Razor Bloom, Cadence, Sigil pushing you off, anything else, you just get to wait even longer for the Flesh to go away. Don't get me started on if the lobby is down a few players, or let alone an LMS. I would rather plunge myself headfirst into one of those damn chimneys than deal with a high-rise Flesh LMS. I hate you, Flesh. I hate it. I want it gone. Well, glad I could get that off my chest in this simple video. I'm glad I've covered everything that I could possibly say that makes me dislike Flesh as an enemy. I mean, oh god! Ow! Ow, what the fuck? My heart! My fucking heart! Oh god! Oh! 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 Glad I wasn't that gal. Huh? Where's my laugh track? Flesh's curses. What the f is going on here? I can't even fathom the thought process behind why you think these are good curses, or fun curses, or unique curses that should be in the game. These are concussion levels of boring ass curses. They don't build on the enemy, they don't expand on what makes Flesh unique, they are direct stat buffs. There are very few enemies who have direct stat buff curses. And even the ones who do, think stuff like Mart and ICBM for example, still have other curses. Even if Mart has bigger Marts, it also has unique curses. Mart Infection is a wonderful curse. We have some really interesting seeming curses coming up in the future. ICBM has bigger blast, whatever, yeah, cool. But it also has two extremely unique curses in Scorched Earth and Hollow Tiles, as much as Hollow Tiles sucks in its own right. Flesh sure tries to do this too, I guess. Lighted Jump Pads exists, it tries to do something cool, but Flesh both fails and makes Mart and ICBM look like child's play in those pure stat increase curses. Both Bloodier Meat and Mass Infection solely focus on buffing Flesh directly, just changing variables. Bloodier Meat literally just increases Flesh's range of infection, but it's a insane amount, and it's already also covered in its field of expertise by a progression event, and an early one too. There's a reason everyone avoids this curse. It sucks. I think it's Mass Infection that pisses me off most, though. I've played with Mass Infection enough, because of it being a greater curse, to have some solid opinions on it. All it does is directly buff the duration tiles and the players stay infected. This is so unbelievably boring and uncreative, especially as a greater curse, and somehow even in that simplicity, it's so painfully unfun. There's so many other greater curses in the game, and even if some aren't well designed per se, the ideas behind them are so cool. Take Oblivion, for example. Oblivion is the most avoided greater curse in the entire game. And it's really hard, it's really annoying, and it's really challenging. But it's fun, it's unique, it's creative, and it's cool. I feel joy when I play with this curse. It's not optimal by any means. It's not, like, that insanely fun or, like, that good to play with. But at the very least, it's creative. It's unique. It does something that nothing else in the game fulfills. What does Mass Infection bring that's new to the game? It literally just takes an enemy that's already so heavily flawed and just buffs those flaws to all hell. There's zero reason this curse should exist. I don't get why this curse exists. I don't get why people would like this curse, and I don't get why it's still in the game. I don't get why Flesh is still in the game in its current state. They got rid of NIL. They got rid of a good enemy in NIL. NIL was a good enemy, and they're reworking it, and it's gonna take God knows how long to do that. But Flesh is still in the game, perfectly fine, right here, and people still pick it. People still enjoy playing with this enemy, and I don't get it. It confuses me. I love this game dearly, and I love its enemies and the designs and the philosophies of those designs that the game has. I think most of its enemies are extremely perfectly crafted. There's thought behind every enemy. There's so much that goes into these enemies. And then there's Flesh. This enemy, it just, I don't even know. It just pisses me off, man. I don't know what else to say at this point. I hate being so negative about this enemy. It's so hard to come up with something positive, though. I feel awful ending this video off in such a painfully sour way. I want to give Flesh the benefit of the doubt, but I struggle to enjoy a single aspect of the enemy. I really hope at some point the devs take the time to give it the NIL treatment and come up with something better. As it is, though, I don't like Flesh at all. I think there's hope for this enemy. I really do. I think they could take it out back like they're doing with NIL currently, and they could come up with something fun. I really hope they do. But I think I've said everything I want to say. Oh wait, I forgot to discuss Bloody Bell, which actually relates to Flesh. Wait, don't leave, wait.